May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and a new stage play from author activist Kiwan Fitch is spotlighting the issue. The play is called Finding Hope in the Struggle and depicts a family as they learn how to address mental illness. The show will be followed by a discussion led by Dr. Markesha Miller. Kiwan and Dr. Miller recently sat down with the Minority Eye's Nicole to talk about the play and the range of mental health disorders that people commonly face.
Thank you so much for joining the Minority Eye today. Being that May, the month of May, is Mental Health Awareness Month, let's talk a little bit about the play that you've got going on tailored around that topic. If you could just say the name and kind of go into why you decided to produce such a play.
Okay, the play is called Struggling to Find Hope. Whenever I write it, I write hope in all caps because I want to make sure that it's clear that the whole purpose of the production is to share with people in reference to mental illness and families that there is hope. The Empowerment Corp is my company, and I've kind of really been doing a lot of different social issues that we've been bringing awareness through drama, through theater, welfare, domestic violence, other economic issues, as well as health issues. And I was had the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Miller to talk specifically about doing something around mental health and getting it together for Mental Health Awareness Month for 2016. And Struggling to Find Hope is actually going to be a full play. It's not going to be a monologue show like most of my other shows have been. And we're showcasing a family dealing with mental illness. We have a young lady who is the youngest daughter in a family, and just lots of searching for who she is and where she kind of belongs. Families have different issues and different struggles, but we're using this as a platform to shine light to an onset of bipolar disorder. There's going to be a spotlight on depression, a spotlight on some other disorders as well within the situation that arises with the family and how they deal with it. And a lot of times we're in denial. And so it's really going to be good. It's local. We have local talent that are coming to perform. These are people who are from the South Carolina area who are sharing on the stage, and we're going to have a good time.
I think it's interesting that you said, some things, some of those topics. I kind of want to go back to the whole idea. What kind of piqued your interest or your curiosity? What made you want to actually target mental illness?
Well, to be quite honest, my profession has always been in people. I'm a social service professional almost 20 years now. I was not in theater or production or any of the arts in any kind of way. This newness in terms of what my company does is really based out of how can I educate the people that I'm used to working with. I've run and battered women's shelters. I just finished working as a clinical counselor at a inpatient psychiatric facility for the last 4 years. So my experience over the last 20 years working with people kind of led to authoring 3 books, which are anthology series, helping people, in particular women, share their stories. And this was just another kind of way to bring light and awareness to people in a different form. Mm-hmm. So working directly in different agencies, to the books, to conferences, and to theater. So it kind of fit in line with everything that I've already been doing. So mental health was on the kind of the list, as well as so many other topics that we will be bringing to the stage as well.
Okay, that sounds good. Talk a little bit about the connection with Dr. Miller, and I'm sure Dr. Miller, you can speak to this as well. How did you two come together and make this play work?
This is funny. I met Dr. Miller a couple years ago, actually. And my high school girlfriend, who doesn't even live in South Carolina anymore, connected us. And she said, Markesha is somebody you need to meet. And I said, okay. And we met, and that's what, 3 years ago?
About 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago. And we met actually about Confessions of a Welfare Mom. And the relationship just has evolved to working on this particular project. Welfare Mom was not even going to be a play. And to be to the place now where we can talk about specifically how to educate people and families on resources, but also how to recognize some things when you're dealing with family issues and stuff like that. So I have to give her credit. It was, I didn't know that I was going to do mental health this soon, but when she said, hey, let's do something together, I was all in for it because she's good people.
And I know that you guys, you're bringing something that's real life to, actors are going to be portraying this. But let's talk a little bit more about the realities of mental health. Is it something that, well, I'll pose the question to you all. Is it something that you all think maybe the Black community itself is afraid to go there? Maybe they don't know to go there, or can you all shed some type of light on that issue?
Absolutely. I think that there is a stigma that speaks to the idea that, what goes on in the home stays in the home. Mm-hmm. And I can think back growing up and being around elders that there is this idea that we don't speak out about our problems or what mm-hmm. may be going on. So I think that there is a lot of a lack of understanding about what mental illness is and what it is not. We don't have to talk about the major bipolar, schizophrenia, or multiple personalities. Mental illness goes as simple as anxiety. It goes as simple as depression. So I think that the educational piece is something that needs to be put out there into mm-hmm. the community, which was one of the biggest reasons that, when I saw Kiwan's domestic violence production, and I saw the impact that it had, and as a counselor educator, this was something I was able to talk with my students about, and it was amazing the impact that it had upon them to actually see something. Because I think it's one thing to talk about it, mm-hmm. but it's another thing to see it. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. so the idea was that if we could portray something theatrical about mental illness, the way that the domestic violence production was, then maybe it gives an idea where people can say, that's me, mm-hmm. Or that's my mom, or mm-hmm. that's my sister. Mm-hmm. And, the unique thing about it is after the theatrical performance, we're going to do a panel. And the panel is going to consist of, we have a nurse practitioner who specializes in mental health, a psychiatrist, we have a representative coming from NAMI, we have an attorney who is actually speaking out about living with mental illness, we have a counselor who's going to be there, as well as another individual who speaks out with NAMI. And so it's going to be something to see, but also something to gain education and resources from as Absolutely. Well. Because we want people to understand that this isn't something that you have to hide in the closet.
That's right. Right. That's right.
I think those are all good things, and I'm sure that those that go to the play will receive a lot of benefits from that.
That's the
whole point.
Yes,
that's the whole point.
Good.
That's the whole point. When you show people a behavior or a lifestyle and what have you, and people begin to recognize it, the last thing we want them to do is to walk away and go, okay, what do I do next? Mm-hmm. So the goal was to make sure that we have a real dialogue about what resources are available in the community, mm-hmm. but also for people who are there as representatives, because it may not be you, but you know of someone.
Right.
So how else would you be able to really kind of get this person to kind of either see themselves, or I've had people call me or reach out and say, hey, Kiwan, listen, can you talk to so-and-so about what is it that she needs to do to get her son help? So, you just never know where the kind of connectedness back to getting healthy will come. Mm-hmm. So the goal is to not just show them, but also to connect them for outside of, and once the play is over, because this is a production, the play is an hour and change, the panel will be an hour, we're going to be done, we had a great event, what next? And that was the goal. Make sure that there are resources there are people there are a connectedness to this community about what, also with NAMI being a part, it makes it where families get support.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. If you are dealing with a person who has a mental illness, that's a huge strain on the family. Personally, I just buried my aunt in August, who had been dealing for 20 years with her son who was schizophrenic. And the toll on her health was just incredible. She hid a lot of stuff. And, dealing with him in and out of the hospital and managing his care, was a lot. And that's just one mother, one child. And it was, so long and so grueling on the family, but she had it. And when you think that this person is so strong because they had it, and, and she's gone. And she's gone. I mean, I just believe that we neglect a lot of the stuff that's going on with us because we're so busy about taking care of other people. And when the person is really ill, mentally ill, it's a whole nother ball game.
Right. Let's go back to some of those mental health issues or diagnoses. Let's say, and you're going to be talking about the topic of families in this play. Is there something that you can say? There may be a family out there and someone watching today or at some point, and, there's some subtle things going on in their family, but they may think that that's just a part of that person's character.
Right.
What are some of the things that are maybe eye-catching or something that you should notice that may lead or may be signs of a mental health issue?
I think the very first thing that comes to mind is just any change of behavior. I always tell people, look for changes. If we're talking about depression, we're going to look for withdrawing from other people. We're going to look for losing interest in those things that once brought that joy and excitement, loss of appetite, trouble with sleeping, irritability. A lot of people don't recognize that. But also another point that I often like to bring out is depression looks different in children. And so with children, we're not going to look for those things. We're going to look for the opposite, overexcitability. It may be a lot of times when children are depressed, they look for small things to really put themselves into, like overexcelling in school. Or even the complete opposite, completely failing in school. And so I think it really depends upon, number one, the generation that we're dealing with. Are we talking about adults or are we talking about kids? But also I think it depends upon the mental illness. One of the biggest ones, I think the simplest that we can look at oftentimes is depression. Depression often ranks as the number one, particularly in women, that often goes overlooked.
Okay. Well, these are all great things and signs that people can look out for in terms of themselves and maybe even their family.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I know you all said a lot of great things about this play and what you're hoping for, the outcome, but at the end of the day, what is something that you like for those people who come to see the play to take away with them?
My goal is that everyone is connected to a family member or a person in their community, their church, and what have you, who may be struggling. I want people to know that there are resources out there, and you don't have to be the professional to figure it out and diagnose or anything like that. You should know someone in your community that you can call and connect with. You should be able to pick up the phone or text or Facebook or something to get the person some type of resource. That's my goal. Know that there is help out there. It may not necessarily be for you. It may be for someone else. I was always guilty of putting pamphlets about different things. I would leave them in public places. You never know who's going to pick it up and actually read it. If you live in a place, a community where you have neighbors and what have you, share the information. Yes, we want to be a great turnout. We want to be able to offer great resources, but you can't get the information if you don't come. So we want to make sure that we encourage people to come. When we did the domestic violence show, people were afraid that it was going to be just all about women being abused, and that was not the case. The show was very much not what people expected. I promise you, you will feel the hope. You will be able to get the resources. You definitely will be able to be entertained, because sometimes mental illness, we're funny. It may be a personality thing that we've just ignored because this person is really comical, and it could be just manic behavior. So we want people to be able to understand that, yes, those things we don't want to change your personality, but we also want to make sure that you're healthy, and that the things that you do when you say are in a manic state or whatever are not going to be detrimental to you or your family. So just come out. That's the goal. Is people, you can't get the information and the resources if you don't show up.
And Dr. Miller?
I definitely second everything that Kiwan has stated, but I think this being Mental Health Awareness Month, the biggest thing that I'm looking for is I want people to be aware. I think that mental health is something that we definitely have kind of dropped the ball with making sure that people understand and they're educated and they know where resources are. So I definitely want to do everything that we can to strengthen and heighten that awareness because I think awareness is always the first step.
Absolutely.
You know, once people are aware, then they can do something.
And to be unashamed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's just so many people who are not well at this point that you can't be ashamed. You know, it's happening. And they're in our community. They're working. They're thriving in our community. It's not something that's going away. And a lot of things, people, maybe even situational. People are dealing with a lot of economic challenges, which is causing a lot of anxiety and eating disorders and all different things like that. Those are in the same category.
Right.
So, you know, you never know. It may be something that can be dealt with over a short period of time, but you can't get the help if you don't reach out.
Right. And is it a possibility that maybe even the stresses, I know you mentioned economical things, that those type of stresses, can they lead to mental health issues?
I think that they affect.
Right.
I wouldn't say that they lead because we have to understand that mental health has a genetical aspect. And so I think that they affect. I think that one of the most important things is we want people to understand that just as important as your physical health, so is your mental. You know, I get my monthly checkups. I make sure this is good, that is good. But you also want to make sure that your mental health is in good tact as well. And so I think it's important for people to understand the importance of eating right, getting proper sleep, making sure you have a good circle of support. All of those are things that affect how well you're going to be. You know, and so I think that, you know, the idea is to help people to understand the whole idea of living well, and that's more than just physically.
And of course, mental health is a big part of living well.
Absolutely.
All right, struggle to find hope.
Struggling to Find Hope, May 21st.
Thank you.
At the Comedy House on Decker here in Columbia, South Carolina. The tickets are only $20. You can get them online at strugglingtofindhope.eventbrite.com.
Okay. Anything else that you guys want to
There's
add?
food.
Yes. The $20 includes your lunch. I mean, where are you going? You're going to get a show, you're going to get resources, but you're also going to get lunch, and that's at noon on May 21st.
Ladies, thank you so much for joining the Minority Eye. It's been very informative and educational, and we definitely look forward to the play.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.